Hi guys, Yoshi here, and in today's video I'm going to be covering the exotic armor portion of my tier list. And in this video I'm just going to be covering the Warlock armor pieces, hopefully by splitting between the three uh, classes it will cut down on the video time. I'm really sorry about the exotic weapon one. I did not anticipate it to end up being an hour and 30 minutes long, but that's just what ended up happening. I just really want to make sure I explain myself as to why I think, certain things are the way they are. I feel like if I just say, oh, it's F tier, I mean, sure, like that means I'm communicating it's bad, but I need to give like a reason why I think it's bad. You can't just say something's bad without, giving like a source or an example or something like that. So, and also before I start is I want to explain what these two categories are here. I have the Mayhem. That's just to say whether or not you may find this exotic useful in playing the Mayhem game mode. And I have the Element type, and I know you can roll exotic armor as Arc, Void, or Solar, but this is just if you go to your collections, this is what the default element type is of the armor piece. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So first off, we have Skull of Dire Ahamkara. I have it as PvP F and PvE F. And the reason being is that this exotic is completely useless. And it's only useless because of a nerf that they introduced to the weapon and how the exotic and how the exotic scales off of ad clearing with the Nova Bomb. So before, how it used to operate is that like if you killed 5 red bars with your Nova Bomb, you pretty much would get your super back. Like that's so incredibly overpowered and broken. Like honestly, it deserved the nerf, but the nerf that they put in place just doesn't make sense. So now how it works, I'm pretty sure if you kill 5 red bars, you don't even get like half of your super back. You probably get like a fourth or an eighth, if not like less. And the other thing is that if you kill an orange bar, like the higher tier or the yellow bar boss enemies, you still only get the same amount of super energy as you do if you were to kill a red bar. So yeah, a red bar equals a yellow bar, and a yellow bar equals a red bar. It's the same amount of super energy. It makes the exotic completely useless because you're not rewarded based off of the tiered ad kills. So yeah, that's why it's got the F tier. It's completely useless now. Next up, we have Crown of Tempest. PvP, I gave it A tier, and PvE, I gave it a B tier. Even though with the nerf to Top Tree Stormcaller, I still believe that that super is still good. It's still definitely usable, even though you can't roam as effectively with it. And Crown of Tempest, it does extend your super uptime and increases the uptime of your abilities. So it's still definitely a good exotic to have equipped if you're running Top Tree Stormcaller, because if you're throwing like arc web nades, you get the arc conductor buff or whatever, the perk that procs off of Crown of Tempest. And when that happens, you generate your grenade comes back faster, so you have another grenade up, or your rift ability will also come back faster, and so will your melee. And your melee is like a mini arc web. It chains to people. If you're playing as Top Tree Stormcaller, which I definitely recommend if you're using this exotic. I wouldn't recommend using this exotic with the bottom tree or middle tree. I just don't think it will be as effective. You won't get as much out of it. Definitely think it still can compete, but I don't have it as S tier because I still believe there are way better exotics. Well, there's only 2 exotics, if you can see here as sneak peek, as to being better than Crown, as being like insta-lock meta picks. PvE, I think I had it as C tier before. I bumped it up to B tier. Reason being that using this exotic in modes where the Grenadier buff is active, you can pretty much get grenades every second. I think if you play Reckoning and Grenadiers up, you throw one grenade and it does the arc webbing, you pretty much have your grenade back in 1 second. It's like freaking insane with the exotic. And the other thing is that combined with Top Tree Stormcaller, it's a very good ad clearing type exotic to have with the super. It can be very powerful in Gambit and Gambit Prime, especially if you're going for Massacre medals. It can help you prolong your super so that you may get those medals. So overall, pretty solid exotic. Next up, we have back to the Skull of Dire Ahamkara things. I have another world, F tier for PvP and D tier for PvE. Reason being, it's like the poor man's Nezarac sin. It's it could be good, but it's not, and I don't use it, and the perks are redundant because you can just have good stats essentially. I mean, it could like you can buff your stats like resilience and discipline, whatnot, or recovery mobility with this. Not resilience, sorry about that. But it's like, why would you do that? If you can already max out your armor, what you are trying to do, you want to max out certain distributions, why take this exotic armor when you can get another exotic armor piece that can help your gunplay or something else, or just give you a little more like, adage. Buffing your stats doesn't really give you like an adage advantage in PvP or anything like that. I don't know how to exactly explain it, but like example, Skull of Dire Ahamkara, when you use your super, you get super back. So that's the added buff. If you use Eye of Another World, you're just buffing your stats. You don't get any bonus thing to any other ability that you're doing. It's just not, it's overall not good. Honestly, should make this F for the PvE as well. Next up, we have Nezarac Sin, which is arguably a lot better than I Have Another World. PvP, I have it C tier, and PvE, I have it as an S tier. Reason being that PvP, it would force you to use Void Super or Void damaging weapons. It kind of forces you into a certain playstyle, and if you don't like the weapons you have that are Void, it probably won't be a fun time for you. Generally, don't use it in PvP. Just again, believe there are better exotics that exist. Even though it potentially can be very good, I don't I don't see it as being really a PvP type exotic. However, it is a very good PvE type exotic. Definitely very good with Devour, Bottom Tree, the Bottom Tree Nova Bomb. Your Devour time is, I mean, even with the rework to Bottom Tree Nova, you already have like constant Devour uptime, and with Nezarac Sin, it's like infinite pretty much. So definitely a good exotic to have, especially if you don't have access to certain other exotics. Nezarac can just be very good for keeping your abilities up, which can extend your lifetime, etc., etc. Next up, we have the Stag. While some people may see the Stag as being good, I just do not see the appeal. So PvP C tier and PvE F tier. Yes, when you die, it drops a healing rift and it increases your healing rift, your rift time, like your rift uptime. I believe when you are critical health, it regenerates faster or something like that. But the thing is that I pretty much max out my recovery, so I get my rift back constantly already. I don't really need the stag for that. And when you die, yeah, it drops a rift, but people in PvP generally are not going to be going to where you are dying. Maybe it can be useful in some situations, but in general, people are not going to be going to where you are dying. If I were to rework this exotic, I would definitely make it so that if you have Empowering Rift on your kit, when you die, the stag makes it so you drop an Empowering Rift at your body. Maybe that can be more helpful for the stag in PvP and possibly PvE. Again, same as PvP, no one's going to be going to where you are dying. Maybe in PvE, the I mean, the only argument here is that, oh, you're dead. There's a healing rift on your body. If you want someone to revive you, they can sit in the healing rift and revive you. But then the thing is, in higher tier activities, you normally have a timer on your revive. So your rift is probably going to expire before your timer is up on your revive. So kind of makes the stag a little pointless. Could be useful in lower tier activities, might change this to like a D or something, but overall just kind of useless. Next, we have Verity's Brow. I know it buffs your grenade usage and can give your allies grenade energy back in PvP. I just don't use it. I don't like, I mean, I can see the application of how it could be good, but the thing is, I personally don't use it. I can't really argue that I'd give it a better score than F. Maybe if I were to slap it on in the next season or the remaining days of the season, I might get back into the game. I might try experimenting with it, but overall, you probably won't see other people using this in PvP. Possibly in PvE, I have seen people use this in PvE. That's why it has C tier. I've used it myself in PvE. It's like a budget version of Nezarac Sin, I think. Because it only buffs your grenade ability energy, like uptime, and giving your allies the uptime. Doesn't do it for all your abilities like Nezarac's, which is what makes Nezarac's really good. And because of that, it's not completely trash, but it's not like an insta lock either. So it's just, it exists. And then Apotheosis Veil, um, I I read it like I wanted to make sure I knew what all the exotics were again before I made this list. I can't even remember, and that's probably why I have it as F tier. It's probably something I don't even use. But as far as I can remember, Apotheosis Veil was just it was not good. Like you'll never ever see anyone using it in PvP, and you'll never ever see anyone using it in PvE. There's a reason why it's a double F tier here. Next up, we have Astrocyte Verse. PvP gave it an A plus tier, and PvE I gave it a D tier. Possibly want to consider using this in Mayhem. It could be good for blinking. If you didn't know already, and what I didn't know is from Destiny 1 to Destiny 2, Blink was nerfed, and this essentially unnerfs Blink in Destiny 2. I think it can be pretty good for aping if you know how to use Blink effectively in combination with the exotic helmet. Not so great for PvE. Most people don't run Blink in PvE unless they're like going for a challenge or like messing around. Definitely not an exotic I would use in PvE. That's why it's D tier. Could be useful for speed running. I'm not sure. I don't speed run, so that's why I don't have it completely at F. The other reason I don't completely have it as S tier either is I think the exotic is still bugged, where you don't get your radar back or increased weapon handling or something like that as the exotic says. I haven't used the exotic in a while, so I'm not entirely sure, but I have read on the subreddit, people have complained that the exotic is still bugged, and Bungie says that they're addressing it, so, I don't know what's going on. Next up, we have Felwinter's Helm, which was the new exotic that was added this season. I actually do really like this exotic. However, I don't think it's as useful in PvP. It definitely has potential, but I just haven't used it in PvP. Reason being that it procs off of your melee, and melee killing it as a warlock is not very viable. I mean, the only good melee I think is possibly you can argue Top Tree Dawnblade or the Middle Tree Void, which is the Nova Warp melee. I do like playing that tree because the Nova Warp's melee is like the strongest and most consistent, but the only thing is that as a Warlock, I don't go around like meleeing things, punching things to death like a Titan would. So I don't think Felwinter's is as useful as others may say it is. It definitely can work with certain builds, but I just don't think that it fits my playstyle, so I just have it as a C minus. And for PvE, I have it as an A minus because I actually do like using this exotic in PvE activities. I think it's very useful in PvE activities, especially with, I think I was using it with Chaos Reach because I liked procking, I liked using the lightning ball to proc it and kill ads that are far away from me, and then it procs and like explodes near me and suppresses the ads near me. Also, just because I have a build with Chaos Reach that I like using in PvE that takes advantage of the Tyrant Surge um, seasonal mod that you get, where if you do arc damage to an enemy, it creates a Warmind orb, and then you, whatever Warmind perks you have, you can take advantage of that. And I like comboing it with Felwinter's Helm, because then when I get the melee in, I can create the arc or the suppression field, and then I can generate a Warmind cell, and then I can go to town on whatever Warmind cell perks I have. So I think Felwinter's is very strong in PvE. I don't know if it's a definite meta pick for me because I haven't used it in a while because they have had it disabled. So I don't know what it performs like now late into the season, but it definitely is better than average. Next up, we have Sunbracers, the first gauntlets we're going to be going over. Have it as a PvP A tier and a PvE B tier. I definitely think it's great pairing out with the Top Tree Dawnblade, especially with the rework that they did to Top Tree Dawnblade. Um, I definitely used this in my grind to Legend, I think last season. I used some bracers for a bit. It's fun being able to jump up and maintain your accuracy in air with top tree downblade, and then have some bracers. If you have some bracers proc, you get like infinite nades, but also allows you to consume your nades so you can extend the duration of your in-flight accuracy timer. Definitely a strong exotic. Also think it's very good, especially you get the melee kill. I like to use nades on warlocks to shut down certain corners and peak zones and just lanes in general. You just toss it down, denies the enemy from peeking that for a couple seconds and then whatnot. But now with the Sunbracers, you get the perk proc. You can throw like 6 or 7 grenades out at once. I do have it as B tier though for PvE, possibly C tier. The only reason being for PvE is that when you spam the grenades, you don't actually do extra damage. It's good if you spread out the nades and they're damaging multiple ads, but if you throw like 3 grenades on a boss, it only does the amount of damage the first nade does. There's no stacking damage. It's just one combined damage thing. You don't get an increased damage or a decreased damage number. You just get the same amount of damage um, as one grenade would do. So not that great. Next up, we have Karnstein armlets. Sorry, that's it. This is one I just don't really know how to pronounce. PvP, I have it as B tier, and PvE, I have it as D tier. If you're playing Chaos Reach, Middle Tree Arc, and PvP, definitely can be a good combo for the lightning bolt that you send out. But PvE, not sure, yeah, why you're punching things as a Warlock. It's just not very strong. Definitely have seen some builds with Arc, especially Middle Tree, Arc, Chaos Reach with Karnsteins, but I don't see it forces you to play with Chaos Reach, and a lot of people may not like Chaos Reach, even though I think Chaos Reach is really strong this season. But Again, meleeing things. Warlock's not really known for meleeing things. Possibly not very good pick, but it's got potential. Winter's Guile, I can't really go over this one. I'm gonna just leave it, yeah, as F tier. The reason being is the damn exotic's been disabled like all season. I saw this week, as of the Tuesday reset, that they added a patch that fixed it. But the thing is, this probably is gonna get disabled again, so I'm not even gonna bother. I just have it as F tier because it's literally unusable. I mean, it's usable now, but it's probably gonna get disabled again. Reason being is that yeah, you can increase your melee damage, so it can be very good for soloing certain encounters, especially if you're like speedrunning or something like that. But the thing is, like, the bug it had was that it was retaining the timer past when it was supposed to expire, and like Bungie tried fixing it like three freaking times and they couldn't do it, and then they like disabled it for an entire month. Probably gonna get disabled again, so I'm probably just gonna skip this one. Next up, we have Aeon Soul, which I believe you still get from the campaign, the Red War campaign. Reason, I feel like I don't even have to cover this. Again, PvP F, PvE F. Yeah, my note. Do I even need to say why? It Unless other people are using Aeon Souls, so unless you have all people in your fire team, like six people at least using Aeon Soul, it's effectively useless. Like, I don't see any good thing that can come out of Aeon Soul unless you're just messing around with your buds. Other than that, it's just avoid this exotic. There's no potential to get out of it. Next up, for gauntlets, I have Ophidian Aspect, and for PvP, I have it listed as an S tier, and PvE, I have it as an A tier, and possibly you might want to use this in Mayhem. I guess. I don't know why I have that. It can be good. It's definitely good if you don't have access to other exotics. Um, I think this is it's either a Warmind or Curse of Osiris exotic from year one. It's very good. It's definitely a meta pick for me, S tier for PvP. Gives you a fake quick draw effect or buff to your weapon so you can draw them faster. It's not as good as having quick draw, I believe. If you have quick draw on a weapon, it's better than having Ophidian. But this can be useful for sniping. If you don't have quick draw on a sniper, it can help you ready your sniper faster. Also buffs your reload. It's not as good as Outlaw, of course, but if you have slow reload time on your weapon, or your weapon doesn't roll with a reload perk as one of its two random rolls, then it can definitely help alleviate the slow reload time. And also, it's got the 1 meter increase meant to its melee range. So I think overall, Warlocks have the buff to their melees, where all Warlock melees have 1 meter increased. And then if you're wearing Ophidians, you get another additional meter, so you get a 2 meter increase. So it can be useful if you're aping, if you're shotgunning, and say someone is a lot farther than you think, well, now you can just reach out and grab them and punch them in the face to secure the kill. Definitely think it's a very strong exotic. Definitely one to get and use if you have it. However, it is not the best exotic. There's an exotic down here, Transversives. When we get to it, I will explain why it is my favorite exotic. Next up, we have Claws of Ahamkara, F and F. Again, I think this an issue with Apotheosis. Don't remember what it does. Uh, Probably for a good reason. Probably for a good reason that it's F and F. So next up, Controverse Hold. We have it listed as PvP A tier, and I've listed it PvE as S tier. Yes, with the nerf to Nova Warp and the way that handhelds Supernova or whatever works. It doesn't one-shot as far away anymore, and I don't think Contraverse rewards as much uh, nade energy back anymore, but it still awards you nade energy and allows you to charge the handheld Supernova up a lot faster. So, it's not like it's it's definitely not meta pick, but it still holds its own like, weight. It definitely offers you um very good, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not potential, but it's like utility. It offers very good utility to your kit, especially when the kit has one-shot nades and you want to be trying to optimize it so that you have high discipline and you're getting your nade energy back faster so you can continuously output one-shot nades. That's one of the reasons why they were so broken in the previous season is that you could literally they were OP. I had them listed as OP before this season. And you could just like nuke people with the nades and constantly have nades like every second or every few seconds. They were insane. And then if you don't know in PvE, if you use it with Top Tree Nova with the nades, you can, before with Contra, you can charge the nades before you throw them and they do increase damage. But the thing with Contra is that if you have them on while you charge them up and you throw them, any damage they do to enemies can contribute you to getting grenade energy back to your grenade ability. And the thing is, you can make these really high power damaging nades. You can do a lot of damage to a boss or something, get all your ability uh, or grenade ability energy back, potentially almost have enough to throw another grenade or you're halfway or something like that. It's just definitely a very solid exotic to have in PvE. It's something I still use and it's something I will continue to use into the future until the exotic gets nerfed or the class gets nerfed. I definitely think it's a very strong exotic to use, especially if you're a solo. Next up, we have Getaway Artist, which is the last of the gauntlets. PvP, I have it listed as a B tier, B plus tier, and PvE as a C tier. Reason being that in PvP, your arc buddy can be very good in helping you clean up kills, especially if your opponent is about to run away. It can also do damage during a fight to help you secure the kill. And it's just like a little, it's like having your teammates with you to do team damage. Like it's like having a buddy with you that's, albeit the buddy is not as good as a real person, but it's still, your buddy is doing consistent damage during your fight. So it's definitely a boost to your gunfight and your ability to win duels. I wouldn't say it can help you win all duels, and the other thing is that if you don't have your grenade up, then you can't have your arc buddy. And the thing is, if you use your arc buddy at the wrong time and you get killed, then your arc buddy didn't help you at all. You just kind of wasted your grenade there. So it's a little bit iffy for me. That's why I don't have it as A or S tier, but I think it's better than average. You definitely can get some use out of it. And then for PvE C tier, I don't think Arc Buddy is as good for PvE activities. Definitely think it's better for PvP activities. It can help you clear like trash tiers in PvE, but honestly, it's just not that useful for PvE activities. Next up, we have Starfire Protocol, the first of the chest armor pieces we're going to be going over. I have it listed as a C tier for PvP and a C tier for PvE. Reason being that you can make this exotic work, especially if you're playing a support role in PvP and PvE. If you're playing as the middle tree Dawnblade with the Well of Radiance and the healing nades, you can make it work since you have more healing nades. You can heal your teammates more frequently, etc., etc. But I don't think healing can be as good in competitive modes at least. It definitely can work in 6v6 modes where you have more teammates to do damage, but when you're in a 3v3 mode or a 4v4 mode where you just need to be doing that extra damage, I don't think healing is as good. It definitely, I don't know, it's mixed opinion here. It definitely can be good because, yeah, you can give yourself like a fake overshield or whatever, or heal yourself back to full health after a fight. But the thing is, it kind of takes away from other things you could be contributing to your kit. And Well of Radiance isn't really like the greatest super to be using either in PvP. I mean, it's got potential, but I think roaming supers are a little bit better. And most supers can just, if like you get, if you place your super down and no one else has their super, then it's good. But if you place your super down and say there's a super on the other team, you're probably, I mean, 90% of the time, you're gonna get killed out of your super. Like, I've seen people use this in Mayhem, Well of Radiance with like Starfire so they can heal people. But the thing is, like, I run Hunter with Shards of Galanor and I just Blade Barrage them and it just instantly kills everyone in the well. So, not good. PvE, again, with the PvP thing, healing can be very good, but the thing is, if you're using this with Middle Tree, Dawnblade, Well of Radiance, there are way better exotics to be using than Starfire Protocol. Next up, we have Wings of Sacred Dawn. I gave it a PvP tier of B and a PvE tier of F. Reason being that I have in the note here, yeah, Icarus mods exists. If you're floating in PvP or PvE, generally you're sitting duck, you're probably going to get killed instantly. I don't think I really have to elaborate further on this. Definitely has potential because when you're uh, ADSing with Wings of Sacred Dawn, it does give you a 30% damage like resistance buff or whatever. But I mean, just use Icarus and use other exotics that can help with greatly help you in other areas. Vesper of Radius, yes, I actually do have this one memorized F and F tier. It creates like a shockwave when you cast your riff. But let's be real here, like why? Like I don't think the cast, like the damage is like even that much to kill someone either. If you PvP, I mean you could kill some low tier ads in PvE, but it's just useless. Next up, we have Sanguine Alchemy. I'm gonna have to take a look at this again with its rework. I have changed it to B and B tier for PvP and PvE. This note is incorrect. I need to change it. Definitely before the rework, I thought it was very good because you could see people through walls. But with the rework now, it's with kills you can extend your rift time. I guess it can be good, but the thing is, it's like you have to have enemies nearby your rift and be getting kills consistently in your rift to extend the rift time. I don't know if people exactly find this useful. I kind of find it useful in PvP, more useful in PvE, where rifts, healing rifts for staying alive and empowering rifts for doing damage are more important because you're trying to increase the amount of DPS you're doing. Not as important in PvP. I'll have to revisit it, but these are the standing rankings I have it as right now. Definitely think though, if you're a new player, I wouldn't recommend going for Sanguine Alchemy, or even if you're a returning player, I wouldn't recommend slapping this on if you're going headfirst into competitive. I definitely would recommend experimenting with the exotic first before you take it into any of these modes. Next up, we have Chromatic Fire, B for PvP and a B plus for PvE. Reason being that it can be good if paired up with the right weapons. I've used this with Bad Juju. I thought it was pretty fun. And with other pulse rifles. However, the explosion, I mean, most people aren't standing close enough to each other where Chromatic Fire's explosion will kill people. But it's just like a fun little damage thing or like Dragonfly on top of your kinetic weapons or something like that. It can be better for PvE since adds in waves especially stand closer to each other than players will, but it's just an exotic that kind of just like exists. It's not awful, and it's definitely a little bit better than average, but it's not really good, and it's definitely not meta, so it's just sitting around at B. Next up, we have Phoenix Protocol. I have it as F tier for PvP and A tier for PvE. I do believe I do believe that Lunafactions are better than Protocol if you're using Well of Radiance, but if you want to get your well back faster and you don't really care about reload, then Phoenix Protocol definitely is good. And if you don't have Lunafactions and you do have Phoenix Protocol, definitely use Phoenix Protocol because you do get your well back faster. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's not as good as it once was. And before, yeah, that's true. You don't get your super back as many from as like less ad kills as you used to. Now it requires a little bit more effort of killing ads to get your super back, but it's still, I mean, I've been able to get my super back almost every time that I've casted a WoW and have been wearing Phoenix Protocol. So, I mean, or at least getting like 3/4 of my super back. It's definitely still a good and viable exotic. The thing is, like, no one uses well in PvP. You're only hurting yourself further by putting Phoenix Protocol on. Better for this, yeah, better exotics exist. Next up, and the last piece we have for chest armor for Warlocks is the Storm Dancer's Brace. This was added in Season of the Undying, or Shadowkeep. D for PvP and a B for PvE. I think it's like a slightly worse Crown of Tempest. Crown of Tempest just does everything that this does better. Yeah, it increases the damage you do in your Storm Dancer super, but it doesn't really matter for PvP because they're already gonna be dead because it's a super. I mean, hopefully you've got that kill locked down. And then for PvE, it's on par with Chrono Tempest. Honestly, it's probably like B minus or C plus. It's just, yeah, Chrono Tempest exists. It can help with clearing like higher tiered ads possibly, but it's not that great. Next up, we have one of my favorite exotics for PvP, Transversive Steps. You definitely want to get these for PvP if you're a Warlock. I highly recommend using them. That's why I have them as triple S tier for PvP and A tier for PvE. It buffs your sprint, your slide, and your crouch walk speed. It is the only movement exotic that buffs your crouch walk speed. Stompies don't do this for hunters. I don't think it does. Doom Archers doesn't do it for Titans either. And while you're sprinting, it reloads your weapons, and it's very good if you're shotgunning. Like, it's pretty much, I think it's like a must-have if you're shotgunning. It's very good for just transversing around the map. Definitely is very good in PvE as well, especially if you're solo or you're trying to speedrun activities like the Whisper of the Worm and the 0 hour activities. Just It's just move fast. You move fast, buff sprint, slide, crouch, walk speed, reload your weapons. It's overall just very good. Might bump it down a notch on PvE, but I'm still keeping it as the triple S tier here for PvP. Next, we have Lunafaction Boots. I have them listed as F for PvP and S tier for PvE. Yes, even though if you aren't familiar with the exotic, the auto loading is gone. Before, what it would do is it would reload from your reserves straight into your mag. You wouldn't have to do a reload animation. However, that doesn't mean reloading super fast or giving intrinsic blah, 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 sorry, intrinsic outlaw perk to all your weapons isn't good. That's incredibly good, especially for activities like boss DPS, where boss damage phase only lasts for a certain amount of time. Now you've got this permanent reload, like quick, fast not auto, or outlaw reload buff active that can allow you to increase your DPS, even though you can't do, you know, the crazy insane DPS that once was, they're still super, super meta for PvE activities. PvP, as I stated in the past with the other Well of Radiance exotics, it's just it's not good. It's like, yeah, you can use it. You don't have to use Well of Radiance. You can use rifts with it, but the thing is like just use Outlaw on your gun in PvP. Just get a gun that has Outlaw or Rapid Hit or something like that to increase your reload time in PvP. Don't don't rely on an exotic to increase your reload time, or like that requires you to also use a rift. I know when I say that, it's like, oh, then why use Ophidians? But Ophidians also give you the quick draw speed and the increased melee, and it doesn't require you to have to use your rifts or something like that to proc the perks that it gives you. Next up, we have Geomag Stabilizers, my personal favorite for doing Chaos Reach builds. In PvE, it can be useful in PvP, definitely because it tops off your super, so it can be very good for getting your super back fast, and it extends the length of your Chaos Reach as well. But the thing is, the way I run my Chaos Reach build, I just prefer to have Transversive Steps over Geomag. Doesn't mean Geomag can't be good. It definitely is good because it extends, yeah, your super, makes it last a lot longer. It's very noticeable, the length of the super time. And it can just, if you're about to get your super, it can help you get your super. So normally what I do is like I use Transversive Steps, and then when I'm close to getting my Chaos Reach super, I'll swap onto Geomags, I'll sprint around a little bit, top off my super, get my super, then switch back to whatever exotic I was using before. So that's how I treat it in PvP. And PvE, you can treat it the same way. Normally I just keep them on because it just I don't really find that I need to do what I do in PvP where I swap around exotics a lot. I just think it just performs better in a PvP and PvE environment than a PvP environment, but probably could make this be. It's like it's good. It's definitely good if you're using Chaos Reach, but yeah, you have to use Chaos Reach. And not saying that Chaos Reach isn't a good super for PvE activities, it's just it can limit your playstyle. And then next up and the last, we have our Promethean Spur. Probably uh going to want to rework that grade. I was pretty sure I like nerfed it to F or something like that. I'm not sure why it's at B. Probably should be close to like D. Um, Reason being is that yes, your Dawnblade, when you get a kill, it creates like a rift that both heals you and it's like a mini well, essentially. It heals and buffs your damage. But the thing is, like, the same thing with the stag is like, if you killed someone, people are generally not going to be going to where that person was killed. And especially in PvP, if you kill someone, you're probably going to kill everyone else around them because you're in your super. And when your teammates or whatever run to those rifts, I mean, everyone in the surrounding area is going to be dead. It could be useful for like getting a quick heal, but again, with the thing is like everyone's dead. People don't generally run to where the dead people are. They run towards where the live people are. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense. PvE, I've used it in PvE. I thought it would be good, but the thing is, normally what ends up happening is your rifts are way too far away from your teammates. And then while you're going on your rampage with your Dawnblade, is that you've killed everything relevant around the rift, and now kind of just renders that rift useless. And yeah, the perk procs every second, and you can get another rift on another enemy that you've killed, but it's just, I don't particularly find it very useful. So that's why I have it sitting down here at D tier. And that concludes the exotic tier list for Warlocks. And in the next video, I'll be talking about the Hunter exotics. So thanks for watching.